Bless up guys, Yannick Reed here and welcome back to the YouTube channel. As I said before, my name is Yannick Reed and on this channel we like to talk about tech, creativity and lifestyle, focusing on photography and videography. So if you like that, please consider hitting the subscribe button for more videos just like this one. Today we are talking boundaries. We're talking about boundaries, you get me? Boundaries in a professional setting as a creative. You understand? You see me? Little boundary, little space. You see me? Give me a little space. We're talking about some boundaries right now. And you know, we set a little precedent where we get with definition them because we're organized people, we're professional people, and we work with definitions. We don't just go off a top. So I have our definition here. A professional boundary is a boundary between what is acceptable and unacceptable for a professional both at work and outside of work. So we're gonna go into six we're gonna go into 6 boundaries that creative professionals should be setting for some healthy work environment. So the first creative boundary that you should be setting is setting your own working hours. Yeah man, so a lot of you who are watching this video, you may not work in a brick and mortar. If you're a freelancer or self-employed, you may be working at home and running your own business, or even if you're running it on the side. Not because you don't work in a building like a storefront means you must just be working 24 hours of the day. You should set your working hours, and you should also let your clients know respectfully what your working hours are. So if you don't know, if you know, say you start on the clock from 9 or whatever time, if it's 10 to 6, those are the hours where you should be your most productive and you should be getting things popping. People can reach you and you have to work in those hours, and people can expect things from you within those hours. Boundary number 2, which ties into boundary number 1, is having professional contact separate from your personal contact. And I would say that would go for your phone and your email. So what that does is, like how you have your working hours, you should have a set of contacts specifically set for work where your clients can reach you on. So between the hours of A and B, you see me, you have your professional email and you have your work number, which client should reasonably expect to be able to communicate with you through those lines and get prompt response between those lines. And just the same, where you have your professional lines of contact outside of your work hours, clients can for sure leave you a message on these numbers, but they should not really expect a response until the next set of work hours the next day, unless you have a special arrangement with a client to link them off hours. So you shouldn't really be giving any professional clients, your personal contact. So you should be able to have the right to do things for your mental health, like turning off your professional phone and logging out to your professional email when you're off hours, doing your own personal thing and unwinding. So don't move, just get a professional email, a neat, clean one. Go buy a banger phone or a extra SIM and just drop that in there, and that's your business phone, and you just tell people to link you upon that number there. Trust me, I'm gonna do them thing then. World of difference. Boundary number 3 is getting your deposits before starting work. I understand that this can be a tricky one. Let me say why you should do this. It's not about the money. It's like a litmus test where you can test, especially new clients, to see how good they are at honoring their word and honoring a business relationship. So it's not really about the money, but if I say to our client 50% upfront before we start working, if I see our client is trying to worm around the deposit or just stuff like that, that's kind of like a red flag for me to say that this may be a problem client that I'm gonna have issues with working in before. It is pretty much very much understood, especially in the creative community, especially in freelance community like that, especially if you're not working at a 9-to-5 office job. Deposits are expected by people like us, and it's not a new thing, so you shouldn't be afraid to ask for them, and people should not like a good 90% of the time should not be worming around a deposit. So that's a good way to test clients to see, is this a good client to work with based on if they honor these things. So deposits, yes. Number 4, very uncommon one. I don't see this one very often around the place, but boundary number 4 is how you accept your payment. And we also want to be graceful about this because, you know, we're still in the service industry, we're still professionals, and we still want to talk to our clients nicely and respectfully. But you should let them know upfront, even, you know, especially because you're collecting a deposit too. It's a perfect point to let your client know your accepted methods of payment. If you accept cash, you let them know, say, accept cash. If you accept bank transfer, this, that. I know there are some people in the community, especially locally in Jamaica and maybe the Caribbean, where sometimes PayPal is an issue, getting your money out of PayPal. No customer should really be very aggressive over what method you should accept payment. Reason why, you know, when you have an agreement with a client, contractually, you are the vendor supplying goods and services. And tell me, have you ever been to any vendor or shop or storefront and you go in there and you tell them which cards they must accept, or if them accept cash, they must take card? You can't do that. Again, remember, respectful. You let people know, no, I don't accept PayPal. No, I don't do this. It's up to you if you want to go outside of your norms for your client to accommodate them, for sure. I think you should be able to let them know that these are the methods of payment that I accept, and it is really a client's responsibility to get your payment to you in a way that is convenient to you, as well as you deliver your deliverables to them in a manner that is convenient to them. Equal, squits out, mad. Awesome. For boundary number 5, we want to talk about estimated end times for projects. And again, just like the boundary before, we want to be graceful and respectful about these things. When you're drafting up your contract or your agreement, or, you know, you're just discussing things with your client before you start a job, a client obviously would have an idea of when they would want their deliverables by, and you should know if you are able to manage that deliverable time. And you should also have, you know, an end time for the product, meaning that after products are delivered at this time, whether if it's a week or 2 weeks, the project has ended. Just set an end time. Reason being, that gives a boundary for both you and your client to know when we can understand that this project is finished, when this project is over, and it gives you a marker to know if the project is going over time and how you can discuss what are the new conditions in which things are happening over time. Because if you say, all right, you're working on a project with a client for a month, you know, you guarantee the client that the project will be delivered in a month, and you will accommodate that client within that month, and they can expect to hear from you within this time. Say that project go on for 2 months, right? And you still accommodate the client, and you know on month 3 you had another project coming up that you had already engaged, and this new client is expecting your attention on month 3. This is a more than reasonable point where you can let the client know, it's like, all right, Chu, we had agreed to end this project in like at the end of the month, and I'm going up onto a project that I've promised this new client my time. Because you're running a business, we have to find a way how we can accommodate this project in a new way so that I can still honor my other business obligations, because you're not obligated to one person. Cliff note is, if you know that you are late in delivering the deliverables, it is your duty to honor what is supposed to go on and fix right the wrongs. You get me? But it is, you must pay attention that, you know, if your client is dragging your feet, you also set the tempo of when clients must respond to you in terms of supplying you anything that you need to finish your job. If your client is dragging their feet, you let them know and say, hey, this project is running overtime. And you can also let people know that you have an overtime rate. Because remember, especially as an independent creative freelance, your time is money, and you have to let your clients know respectfully, graciously, that they need to respect your time. Yes, so end times, very important. Don't forget them. And our last boundary now, boundary number 6, is not being afraid to bill for incidentals or unforeseen expenses. And this is a discussion, like before, that you have before in the early stages of your client in doing some of the works that you do, like maybe if you're an assistant, maybe you're a photographer on location or something like that, or whatever it is. There are some jobs that may involve us to spend some things that we may not have accounted for, like maybe gas, buying a prop or something like that, or getting some food for somebody, any little incidental. Good business relationship practice, and this is especially if you trust your client, is that it's good professional sense to be able to have a part of your business expenses where you can probably accommodate a client once it is under, it's a reasonable expense, like if you just put in some gas in your car or whatever, to maybe drive somewhere you didn't expect to. You just do it. You let the client know that in the event of any of these incidentals, they are the client's responsibility, but if it is able for you to pay it upfront, that you will bill the client for it later at the other end of your payment. And as I mentioned before, I want to stress, this is strongly based on if you trust your client, which you should. There are some people who you will upfront incidentals from, and they will nickel and dime you about it after you have already paid for it. If you know you're working with a client like that, best not to. Practice for both, like across the board, is you can let your client know as well. If you don't know, you say you have to drive out of town to get a specific shot for this documentary, call the client and say, yo, I need to drive out of the town and it may cost me some gas and toll expenses. I just wanted to give you a heads up, and I'd probably be billing you at the end of the project for them. And then the client can say,
yes, I'd like you to do that, or they can say, no, I don't want to incur that expense.
And that is on the client's decision. And if you don't get that shot, it's something that the client was aware that you made the effort to do, but they didn't want to accommodate for it. Those are 6 boundaries. Not every boundary, but just 6 of them that I think creative professionals should keep in mind when doing creative projects. Drop down in the comments if there are any boundaries that you think are missed or I think are really important. Drop them down there. Share them with the community and thing. Also in the description, what I'd love for you guys to pay attention to is I've made a new YouTube playlist called Advice for Creatives. You get me? That has all of these kind of videos that form as advice and stuff like that. You may be new to the channel, welcome. And I've been doing videos of this nature for years, and there may be stuff that is stocked up in there that maybe you've missed, and you can kind of go through and kind of catch yourself up on it. It's going to be linked in the description. That's all for today. Stay safe, behave yourself, and continue to bless up yourself.